Today, we'll be looking at a plethora of issues. We'll be looking at a whole lot of things. We'll be looking at a whole lot of concerns that have plagued our world. In the changing fortunes of time and across different epochs and across different generations and different times and different seasons and different faces of realities, we've come to meet men and women who have tried to look at things from different perspectives, look at things that get to help our world, look at things that get to see to it that society, our society, the world we get to live in, as well as the world they got when they were around, saw to it that, they felt their impact, they felt their change, they felt the different contributions they had to offer humanity from the good side as well as the bad side. But we have always had these men around, men and women for that matter, making strides, be it from theology, be it from science, be it from the arts or the engineering sector, be it from whatsoever walk of life you could think about, and whatsoever walk of life that existed in such period. Men and women have tried to come to understand what the world around them entails and what they can do and what they could do in such a period in time, and how they can see to it that their world either gets better or get to feel their impact. From the Middle Ages through the period of Renaissance to the 20th century, the late 20th century, up onto what we now have as the 21st century, we've seen men and women come out to tell us a whole lot of things. We've had the likes of Steve Jobs do his own stuff. We've had the likes of Mark Zuckerberg and his enduring discoveries and inventions and what have you. In recent times, the rave of the conversation is Elon Musk. And he has been trending for a whole lot of reasons we all ordinarily should get acquainted to and acquainted with. In Brazil, he has faced sanctions, as well as in China, as well as in North Korea. Even in the US, he's been the target of a whole lot of persons as it concerns also the forthcoming elections, and it has a whole lot also to do to his political leaning at the moment and his conversation and acquaintance with the likes of Donald Trump. And he stands also on free speech, has also not seen to it that he has a simple life as he ordinarily would want to come to have. But beyond all of this, there's a young man from Nigeria. His name is David Hundeyin. We'll get to know his story. This is a young man who for many years now has been trying to do a whole lot of reporting as it concerns the issues that get to affect the continent of Africa, with lots of attention given to West Africa, but not limited to such. He's an investigative journalist. He wrote The Jungle, and he's actually done a whole lot of things back home. He's uncovered a whole lot of stuff as it concerns terrorism, as it concerns misappropriation of funds. He's even covered allegations leveled against the current president of the country, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as it concerns his involvement in the US before, going back to Nigeria, and after many years of, active activism, if I should put it that way, became governor and now is president of the country. So you will not expect that such a man gets it easy in life. He's having a very, very tough time at the moment. He's faced a whole lot of censorship. He's been tagged a whole lot of names alongside Sowore, alongside Pidom. And this goes to tell us how difficult it is to get to report news, especially when you are not amongst the mainstream media in the continent of Africa. The leaders get so offended, they feel annoyed, they feel angry that you're doing something you ordinarily shouldn't be doing, when we all know that these are the things that these people ordinarily were meant to do. And so, as the world continues to watch and as the world continues to look the other side, we also must know that Africans are deserving of as much coverage as is needed as much media coverage as one can ever get to think about. The coverage needs to be massive, but then who gets to do the coverage? You can't tell the Western media to come cover Sudan for as long as possible. To what end does that bring them? To what level of traffic do they get if they continue to talk about Sudan? But Sudan has been under siege for more than a year. The Democratic Republic of Congo has not come to know peace as far back as you could think of. Rwanda is still having undertones of, you know, political unrest here and there, and there's still a genocide going down there in Congo, and Nigeria is facing a whole lot of um, terrorist attacks on many fronts, as though being attacked the way Poland was, from both sides of the border. From the east, you have the agitation for the people of Biafra, and this agitation also have not come to really be given the much needed attention it ordinarily needs to be given. From the far-flung north, the vast land, you also get to see the level of terrorism that has come to play down there. But this is not the entire story, just on the surface level, that they are fighting their unrest here and there. A whole lot of other external forces are playing out here, but that will be a conversation for another day. What is a typical example of a day in the life of a northerner in a warring zone? A typical example would mean them not being sure of the possibility of going to their farms, not being sure of the possibility of carrying out their goods, and giving and rendering services to as many persons who would ordinarily want such services from them. The fear of losing one's family, one's location, one's tribal affiliation, and what one tends to hold very, very dear to them.
The security situation in the northern part of Nigeria has degenerated completely. When we in the south hear of banditry, what we think of most of the time, because that is our own encounter with banditry, we think of when you're traveling on the highway and you might get kidnapped, or if you're living in Abuja and they walk into your home and kidnap you wholesale. So it's either you're on the road to get kidnapped, or you live around Kaduna or Abuja. That is the impression of the average southerner. But the reality is that the northerner, for him, banditry means he's unable to go to his farm. He's unable to stay in his village. The rural area has been despoilated. Banditry means there is illegal mining going on in which the police, the DSS, the military, the government officials, emirs are complicit. But because of their complicity, is completely abandoned, and the Nigerian press is not reporting what is going on. So for him in the north, you've got complete disruption of his way of life. Now, here is the thing. The Nigerian press, complicit in the mess, compromised almost beyond redemption, do not report these truths. So the north is left alone. So when we're talking insecurity, we rarely ever speak to the pains of the north, because we are rarely ever properly informed about the pains of the north.
This is just painting a very, very vague picture of what these people go through, living amidst uncertainty, the uncertainty that you don't know what tomorrow brings. You don't know what tomorrow gets to offer to you. You don't know what tomorrow gets to look like. That's if tomorrow ever comes, because also if you were to play with semantics, tomorrow as well never really comes. But shifting the focus from tomorrow to today, those who go to bed in the north today are not so sure of what the night is going to look like and how their life is going to turn out. And people are still there. And there's a shift in the attention of government officials. Nigeria once sent soldiers for peacekeeping as far as Liberia, Sierra Leone, and the whole idea of ECOMOG and all that. And my uncle was a soldier back then, and he he also was in Sierra Leone, he was in Liberia, and I'm not here for whatsoever reason giving glamour to the military life and giving credence to whatsoever such has come to mean politically today in our time as it concerns war and all that. But it begs the question, can't the Nigerian government actually tackle terrorism? Can't the Nigerian government actually sit down, look at these issues squarely, and know that every day humans are dying, every day people are underfed, every day people go home with the fear of not actually going back to their businesses the next day. And when the next day comes, they actually leave for their various endeavors, those that have, without the assurance of actually getting to come back home. People die in churches, people die in mosques, people die even in shrines. So there's barely any place people get to run for safety. People don't get to find safety in a country like Nigeria. And this is not me getting to paint the country black as it ordinarily shouldn't be painted. This is me painting the country as the country actually is. The same way we get to have layers of insecurity on different fronts and for different countries and different continents, so also must we be bold enough to talk about the unrest happening back in Nigeria. And that is what the likes of David Hundeyin has tried to do for Nigeria, and he has paid dearly. He has paid dearly. He's become a refugee. He's become a fugitive. He's gone into exile because, as he said himself, as reality gets to present itself to him, he has to take the choices and the chances he has to be out of the country, and that is what he has actually done. Another person on the picture, as it concerns trying to shape the course of the country, you get someone like Sowore. He was arrested.
Okay, they arrested you this morning at the Murtala Mohammed Airport. You knew that if you came into the country, you will be arrested. I mean, it was foreseeable. And then you came in. Is that ego on your part? Is that foolhardiness? Well, they've given you back your passport. But why did you have to dare the Nigerian state?
It's a matter of right to not abandon one's citizenship, one's rights, one's fundamental dignity by running away from the government of your own country because they feel like they can violate your right. I have not committed any offense known to law, even though it was brought to my attention and that my name was put on a watch list. First by the CG of Immigration, the lady, and then later there was a document I got from the DSS that my name was placed at the airport on a watch list. But I had decided I was coming to Nigeria anyways because I had a case coming up soon, and that nothing was going to stop me. So I took my bags, packed my bags and got on the plane and arrived this morning to Lagos from the US after almost 14 hours of flying, only to get to the immigration people and they said, they seized my passport first and said, I have been ordered arrested. Of course, I was expecting it. But it wasn't a matter of ego, it was a matter of rights. It was a matter of existence. I'm a Nigerian, and I don't think any Nigerian should be afraid or be scared from their home country simply because some people are going haywire in office or in power. I don't have any reason to explain why I come to Nigeria. I don't come to Nigeria on vacation, it's my home country. And as a result, I can come to Nigeria for any reason whatsoever. I can come to Nigeria even if I don't have any reason to visit. It's my country. This is where I was born, raised. And after spending some 25 years in the US, I never abandoned the citizenship of Nigeria. So I don't owe anybody any explanation as to why I can come to Nigeria or the reason I can. So I can come to Nigeria for any reason. I don't owe the government any duty to be afraid to come home simply because they put my name
it's okay.
on the watch list.
But Sowore, are you aware that under this Tinubu administration,
Yes.
where you carry placard is treason? You are toying with treason. About 10 people who had been arrested, they were charged for treason. They were remanded in Kuje prison. They've been granted bail to the tune of 10 million naira. So what kind of spirit will bring you back to say you want to commit treason, knowing that they will come after you and they will put you in Kuje prison, where they seem to have enough space to house people like you?
It is treason to arrest, detain, and falsely charge citizens of crimes they have not committed. And it's not the first time I was accused of treason. In fact, I heard about the offense of treason in 1992 at the University of Lagos, when we went and did Babangida Must Go. And the police arrested us at Western Avenue Police Station, asked us to start writing statements under duress and said that we want to overthrow the government. That was the period that Olusegun Mayegun, who was president of NANS at that time, I think Femi Falana, Baba Omojola, and the rest of them were charged for treason. And the magistrate court did grant them bail. I was charged for treason in 2019 by Buhari, so I'm not new to treason, these bogus offenses of treason, but that is not our focus. Our focus is that we have a country to liberate and a people to save. So whatever offenses are thrown our way, it should not discourage us. It's up to the people to determine what constitutes the offense of treason. And in this situation, it is the Tinubu regime that is committing treason. And I must say to you also that in 1994, Tinubu was accused of treason. If you remember, when he was accused of bombing Ejigbo Depot by Abacha. So that was why he left Nigeria on exile. But in our own case, we are not going to go on exile simply because the government is afraid of placards. You're a lawyer. I don't need to remind you of that. And I'm sure that if you were sitting in court representing an accused person, and it's a person that's accused of treason for carrying placards, you must look at the prosecutor and wonder whether he went to law school.
Well, I know that lawyers are part of the problem.
They just came to me and said, we were looking for, because I tweeted while I was waiting, while I was sitting in their office, that I'm now in detention and they've seized my passport. And they said, we're looking if you have a waiver for the watch list. I said, what's the waiver for watch list? And another 10 minutes later, they came and said, we resolved the issue. You can have your passport back now. And some of them actually nicely escorted me to get my bags. But by the time I got to the bag section, one of my bags had gone missing. So we're still looking for the bag as we speak.
Your bags disappeared?
Yeah, one of the biggest bag I brought had disappeared.
But the ones you got, did they open them?
I don't know because I didn't lock them. But I'm just hoping that they're not trying to play funny with the bags. But I've reported that to the airline. Because every bag that comes through the U.S. airline, United Airlines, you have a tracking on it. And the tracking showed that it went on the carousel to where I should pick it up, but I can't find the bag as we speak. Well, I'm just hoping that nobody will go and plant anything funny inside my bag.
Okay, but for now, you are free.
Yeah.
They're giving you your passport, and, you have no fear that when you step out of the studio, they will rearrest you.
Even if they do, I'm not a stranger to them, and we'll resolve that when we get there.
So Sowore was recently arrested upon arrival at the Lagos airport in Nigeria, and after a public outcry for an unjust arrest and the seizure of his passport, he got released, and he's doing a whole lot of stuff back in Nigeria. And one of them is the fact that he's speaking and trying to see to it that a man called Ijele Speaks, who has been remanded in the correctional center back home, gets his freedom and gets the freedom he needs, because he's been illegally detained, and the full picture of the story is not something that a whole lot of persons are willing and ready to talk about. So it costs a whole lot to talk about things back home in Africa. It costs a whole lot to talk about things as they are, not things as you want to be told to talk about them. Because indeed, people are suffering greatly, people are sad, people are angry, people are annoyed, people are being persecuted, but also people are left to be illiterate, people are left to be very gullible, people are left to be very, very pessimistic and skeptical as to how things get to be run and things get to follow in a place like Nigeria. And the doom of the country is not a thing far-fetched. It's a thing the near. It's a thing we all are going to fall under, because just like Dike Chukwumerije would say, the same things can bind us that drive us apart, because the wall and the bridge indeed are both in the heart. On the issues that get to affect the continent, one would begin to ask oneself, why are these problems endless? Why don't we seem to be having a way forward? Because a whole lot of persons thrive on ignorance. That's a simple answer. A whole lot of persons thrive on the ignorance of the others. People get to say ignorance is bliss. I choose to differ from such claims. While it looks plausible, like it will be said, if the truth will kill them, let them die. Let us die under the truths of our situations, rather than getting to give ourselves false glory and false applaud as to how things are supposed to be run in our continent and in our place. The likes of David should be given the maximum support they ordinarily deserve and the support they ordinarily need as necessary for everybody who tries to speak up to power, especially illegitimate power, and the way things get to go down there. The Edo State elections will be coming up very soon, but then you get to listen to the gubernatorial candidate for the APC, and then you get to see how backwards the man tend to be in a whole lot of things. He's devoid of the progress ordinarily necessary and needed for somebody to hold such political powers. And recently, my mind got taken back by a video I watched on Time Machine some days ago, and it was about Trump. A whole lot of persons have to differ a whole lot with him. But then he was 34 years old and he was being interviewed by a lady, and he said a whole lot of beautiful things as to how those who get to vie for political offices in America are not always the best of people they get to put forward. They get to allow the best of minds get to run companies, get to run organizations, firms, and all other bodies to the apex of their success and all that. But then,
for some people, the ultimate goal in life has been becoming the President of the United States. Would you like to be the President of the United States?
I really don't believe I would, Rona, but I would like to see somebody as the President who could do the job, and there are very capable people in this country.
Most people who are capable are not running for office. Most men are frightened of politics today.
It is a shame, isn't it?
Yes.
It is a shame. The most capable people are not necessarily running for political office, and that is a very sad commentary on the country. They had major corporations and they had this and that, but they are not running for political office.
Why wouldn't someone like yourself run for political office? You have all the money that you possibly need. You've accomplished a great deal, even though you are only 34. I know there's a lot of things that you possibly can do in the years ahead. Why wouldn't you dedicate yourself to public service?
Because I think it's a very mean life. I would love and I would dedicate my life to this country, but I see it as being a mean life, and I also see it as somebody with strong views and somebody with the kind of views that are maybe a little bit unpopular, which may be right, but may be unpopular, wouldn't necessarily have a chance of getting elected against somebody with no great brain but a big smile. And that's a sad commentary for the political process.
Television, in a strange way, has ruined that process, hasn't it?
It's hurt the process very much. I mean, the Abraham Lincolns of the world. Abraham Lincoln would probably not be electable today because of television. He was not a handsome man, and he did not smoke.
When it comes to political power, a thing that is ordinarily supposed to be taken very serious by one and all, it's left to those who put up a fine smile, those who put up a smiling face, whatsoever that means for the American people at the moment, and whatsoever that stands to do to the future of democracy as the people of America wants to portray it, them still holding on to the idea of them being morality police and all that. So you get to look at a state like Edo. They have the best of minds, or one you could consider better off than the current guy. But then it looks very, very plausible that he's going to win. He's been avoiding all forms of debates. He's been running away from public engagement and all that. The other day, he promised the people insecurity. And then in recent videos circulating online, he's been asking the people, do you have roads? Do you have water? Do you need water? These are the things these guys have come to use to, as weapons against the people. Poverty has been weaponized against the average Nigerian, and by extension, the average African who still look at eating and drinking as the reason why such a person is created. And it breaks my heart, when I try to talk about these things, because I have friends, I have family members back home, I have relatives whose life would not meet the current mark of the 21st century simply because things have not been offered to them that will gear their mind towards such things. Just like the musical artist Passenger will get to say in his song, you can only buy what you are sold. You can only use the things available at your disposal. If a company gets to produce a vehicle and the vehicle is term limited, it's limited to as many persons that can afford it within the said period of time, and after that, it's gone. You cannot get it. If you live within a country that has restrictions as to the importation of certain products from other countries, you can't get it, you can't access it. So also is the average Nigerian, limited by a whole lot of things. And here you find Dan Bello, who resides and work in China, get to expose the reality up north, and you get to see how disheartening things get to really play out. And you see his life being put under trial and him being threatened on many fronts. But the price has to be paid if the catch and the attention also is intended to be great. So there are trying times and there are trying situations back home. But then the masses have to be educated as much as possible. The average Nigerian needs to be told what disservice his or her political leader does to him or her. The average Nigerian has to understand that he also has a role to play, a political role as well as a private role, as many persons come to believe that it's just in and about themselves, and beyond that, they don't really need to get to forge ahead to see that the nation gets to cooperate and then get to progress in unity. So that you find almost every political campaign and ideology back home being about the tribe, being about what you can do for your own people, your own family, and the likes of that. And then here you also get to see the complicity in the various layers of corruption we get to have as a people. And so what do? We have to begin to curtail how things are, because injustice tolerated in a particular region is a threat to justice everywhere. You get to find Mr. Dele Farotimi talk extensively about the troubles and the problems Nigeria gets to face.
There is a coming deluge. Ignore it at your peril. In 2020, The storm was not perfect. You could play the religious cards. You even turned a peaceful protest in Lagos into an IPOB operation. A live feed by DJ Switch was called a lie. There's a storm coming. It's the perfect storm. NSAS was just the shower. This is the time to recognize the commonalities of our afflictions. It is the time to be deliberate about uniting ourselves so that we can, in uniting ourselves, isolate our enemies. We are more than them. Them, meaning the ruiners. They belong to no tribe. Fela said it rightly. They are beasts of no nation. They know nothing about God. Those who know of God will not leave you to be starving when they are spending billions, 90 billions to subsidize Hajj. How many people will go to Hajj? How many would have benefited from all of that? The Nigerian revolution is not inevitable. It only becomes a revolution, which means a change, a turnaround, when you commit to making it one. The difference between a revolution and anarchy is the presence of a plan for the day after a storm. There is a storm coming.
This is no fluke. This is no joke. The country is standing on a time bomb. And if people don't get to speak up, if people don't get to speak out, there's going to be a whole lot of problems. There's going to be a whole lot of issues that cannot be resolved. Just like we're having issues in our health and in our infrastructures by importing merchandise that ordinarily we don't need as a people, and such becoming problems in the long run, like the kind of cars we get to bring into the country and the cost of maintaining such and the likes of that. The new variants of diseases and infections that get to afflict the people, and how near impossible it is to really get to combat that. So someone sits here and begins to ask oneself, what are the problems the country face at the moment? What are the solutions that ordinarily can be proffered? David Hundeyin has been speaking for as long as I can remember. Dan Bello has been speaking out and speaking up for as long as one can see. Sowore, whether you like him or not, has been voicing his opinions here and there. Very dark man is also in the picture, and he has been advocating for a whole lot of things. Deji, the barrister, has also been speaking up greatly, and you have to give him his flowers. You might not like the way he go about doing his things. Agba Jalingo has not relented in the struggle for seeing that the citizen gets the necessary advocacy it needs and democracy is restored to the people if we really want to practice democracy. Dike Chukwumerije has been speaking up and been speaking out, but have we really been listening?
This is what Chino Activism meant when he said that the problem of Nigeria is threefold. 1, leadership. 2, leadership. 3, leadership. That gap between the GDP and the HDI tells us that Nigeria is a badly governed country. That our abundant resources are wasted and are squandered. The difference between a wise country and a foolish one is not as difficult as you might imagine. Not requiring years and years of study to unravel, just a bit of observation. But the leaders of a wise country face the exact same questions as those of a foolish one. How do we build roads? How do we generate jobs? How do we give our children a good education? But while the leaders of a wise country will do the math, study the problem and do the science, write down penicillin as the answer to infection, the leaders of a foolish country will not do the same. They will wear agbada, they will wear kaftan. They will wear red caps with eagle feathers in them. Then they will enter their cars and go for meeting. And after meeting announce, we have formed the committee. To meningitis, they will say, It is the punishment for sin. That a girl who does not wish to be raped should not wear short things. That herders and farmers have been fighting since Cain and Abel, so the victim should ask God why he made things that way. But the leaders of the wise country will not do like this. They will study the problem and do the regression analysis. Build suspended bridges when they come to gaps in the road, but the leaders of the foolish country will not do like this. They'll wear gold ring, they'll wear bangles. They'll wear threaded caps and twist to one side. Then they'll enter their car and go for meeting. And after meeting announce, we have all the government. When they meet bad roads, they will buy bigger jeeps and use police outriders to clear the traffic as they race past empty hospitals on their way to the airport, on their way to pay cash for a colonoscopy abroad. But the leaders of a wise country will not. They will study the problem and do the calculus. As if the poor can be richer, that the rich will feel safer. But the leaders of the foolish country will not do it. They will wear itibo, they will wear shag, they will wear beaded caps wrapped in white turban, and they will enter their car and go for meeting. And after meeting announce, when they think of power, they will think of contract. When they think of water, they'll think of business opportunities. When they think of education, they'll think of profits. When they think of empowerment, they'll think of themselves. But the leaders of a wise country will not be like this. They will study the problem and project into the future. That if oil will finish, then its proceeds should be invested, not eaten. But the leaders of the foolish country will not do that. They will wear an air. They will wear an attitude. They will wear the swagger of men who send shuttles to the moon. And they will enter their car and go for meeting. And after meeting announce, we have found.
We as Nigerians, we as Africans by extension, what really do we know about the continent? What really do we know about our brothers and sisters? What really do we know about the issues we get to face as a people? What way forward? How can we see to it that indeed we fix things for ourselves? And this is the question. What do we know? What do we know of ourselves? How bad is our situation? How bad do we know our situation really is? How bad has our case been? And how badly do we as a people want progress? How bad do we want to really get out of the situation we currently are in? That's the question. The question we must answer are varying. The questions we must answer that will fail to answer the questions that have been put before us. How badly do we want progress? The easiest way out shouldn't be migration to other countries, which also has not been an easy decision for a whole lot of families. Families have sold land, families have sold ancestral homes, if you know what that means to a whole lot of Africans, just to see to it that, you know, they get to live the continent for greener pastures, for whatsoever they get to look for these things. And it begs the question, for how long are people going to sit down and watch their corrupt, inhuman, robotic political class get to do things the way they get to do things, with little or no effort seeing to it that things get to work? And so as Elon Musk continues to be sanctioned for him trying to promote free speech, we also have David Hundeyin and the threat to clamp down on his media accounts and suppress his voice by a whole lot of persons, you know, from the days back to the saga between Onyeka and his involvement in Oxford and Cambridge, and how that affected David Hundeyin to him being accused of a whole lot of things and being kept on different watch lists, we've come to see that one man amongst many other guys out there and many other women out there have been targeted intentionally for reasons not outside our grasp, to clamp down on such men, because a whole lot of persons are willing to give up good morals and good habits in as much as it concerns seeing to it that their family members get to be safe. But for how long? Dear politicians and dear leaders back home, for how long are we going to continue down this particular path? For how long are we going to tell ourselves that we don't need free speech? We don't need the right to express ourselves the way we ordinarily want to do, and then wait for feedbacks and wait to see how we can better ourselves? For how long are we going to tell ourselves that we don't need to necessarily do the things we ordinarily are supposed to do as citizens of a particular country in need of constant change, in need of help? The continent, sometimes it looks as a hasty generalization to, put a whole thing as the continent having issues, but it remains the fact that despite it being the second largest continent, the sanctions on it still baffles me as a person. It's simple. And Chinua Achebe gave us an answer for that. The trouble with Nigeria, and by extension, Africa, is simply and squarely a failure of leadership. It's simply and squarely a failure of leadership. Leaders who are ready to rise to the responsibility of what is needed to actually do what ordinarily should be done. It is people like this we end up voting in offices. Leaders who become rulers, leaders who look at how they can better their lives and better the lives of their family, as opposed to the common good of the people. Leaders who have no sense of how common we ordinarily should be. Leaders who victimize their people. Leaders who are very stupid. Leaders who are without conscience. Leaders who just want to clamp down on the people and see to it that people continually remain where they are. Leaders who have no intention whatsoever good for the people and the political office they come to hold, or the offices they get to accept. These are those we get to find every day in various offices. So that schools are left without adequate funding, so that our curriculum and our syllables are not given the much attention they ordinarily deserve, so that roads kill more people than they transport people, so that hospitals see more deaths, unjustifiable deaths at that, than the number of persons it can legitimately cure without telling them to pray or call on the gods or whatsoever they get to believe. So that machines don't get to function the way they get to function. So that the average salary owner is looking between 50 to 60 to 70,000 naira as a paycheck for the month, which means the person's children can't comfortably go to school, and he and his family would constantly be at the mercy of God. And you know what they say about being at the mercy of God? People should ordinarily not be at the mercy of God for things humans ordinarily can get to create. People shouldn't be at the mercy of God. But that is what we find. That is what we find back home. That is what we see get to happen. And it doesn't make sense on a grand scale. It doesn't make sense on a whole lot of levels. It doesn't make sense. But who are we to get to question how things are done? Who are we indeed? Who are we? We're Africans, we're humans. We are deserving of everything we get. But we can get better because we also have not sacrificed enough. And I'm not saying here by any inference or allusion that we've not suffered enough. We've suffered enough, but I think the level of patience we get as a people it's very, very challenging and demanding. It is not like we've not, suffered enough or we've not had a whole lot of issues and we've not had a whole lot of problems. We've had a whole lot of things. We've had a whole lot of things play out in our lives, but I still really cannot understand why things are like this. And that also is going to be a lie on my part because I do. Because the political class have decided to leave us where we are. Because we have not seen ourselves as a collective. We've been busy looking at ourselves as Hausas, as Yorubas, as Igbos, as Ijaws, as Shekiri, as Obudu, as Bekwara, as Boki, as Ikom, as Ogoja, as Cotonou, as Katabang, as Ghanaians, as Cameroonians on the national level, the intercountry level, and the continental level, if you want to get to see it, as Egyptians, as Arabs up north, as people from Morocco, as Senegalese, and all these things are the things they get to use and divide us and put the fire within us. We don't get to first read the news or get to read and analyze it rather than just to react. We read the news to hear what Wike has to say, what Tinubu has to say, and we react and we post it and we get views, and we've used these informations to create contents. And yes, we've had enough contents, but beyond that, what does it mean that snakes get to steal money, that David Hundeyin's life is threatened, and that we see him as so brave a man that equals deification, rather than we teaming up around him and creating more of his kind that get to report these stuff on a daily basis? Because you and I have brothers and sisters in government. You and I have uncles and aunties in government. You and I have fathers and mothers that serve in one office or the other, and we know the benefits that come with this. But what happens as we continue to allow ourselves to be made a thing of mockery on the international scale? We also find ourselves drowning, and we are drowning seriously. It's not a joke. We are drowning seriously. Agriculture, religion is there on its own, showing us shaggy. These things are too many. These things are too many. Talk about them some other time. But let's just remember that the world we find ourselves, the society we find ourselves, and the world we want to currently live in needs peace. Be it peace in Lebanon, despite the recent bombardment allegedly done so by the Israeli military force. We have to tell ourselves that there are a whole lot of N things around. There are a whole lot of N word being used here and then. Then the annihilation of a people also is also there. We can continue to speculate as much as we want. But the West is not coming to save us. They're not coming. They're not coming. And we must do it by ourselves. And we must do it for ourselves. I am Biringkpa Obinna Emeka.